Hi, everyone. This is Katie with Empowering Astrology, and this is your look at the astrology of November 18th through 24th, 2019. As I'm recording this, it's the day after my birthday, so I thought I'd get a little sparkly, still celebrating my birthday. I want to always have this chance to reintroduce myself, especially to those who are just discovering who I am and discovering my work. I am an astrologer here in New York City. I'm also a psychic medium. I work with clients. I write horoscopes with this whole idea that your chart, your astrology, the heavens is trying to show you a path to be your best self. So this actually reminds me of a conversation I was having this weekend with a client. And sometimes when, a client knows a lot about astrology, or maybe a lot about their chart, sometimes the thinking can get a little narrow. This idea that the chart is working against you instead of for you. And I deeply believe that at the end of the day, your astrology chart is trying to work with you, is trying to work for you. That's not to gloss over that some of our charts do have some, let's say, bigger hills to climb, bigger mountains to climb. But I think that we come into this lifetime and we come into this world with a roadmap to success. So sometimes we just have to learn to work with our astrology. And that's really, I think, at the core of Empowering Astrology, is teaching everybody how to, let's say, reframe their astrology and understand that we can work within our chart in a more, let's say, constricted and closed way, or we can work with our chart in a way that kind of helps us to be our best self. So when I'm working with somebody, I'm always in the mindset of, how do I help this person get to where they're going? How do I help them become their best self? And maybe that's a tall order in one session, but that's something that I've been thinking about a lot this week, especially after having a few conversations about astrology. But I'm just wanted to check in with the comments. I see some familiar faces. My mom's on the live feeds. Hi, Mom. So we're going to be taking a look at the astrology of this week. There's a lot that's going on. So what's happening? And before I get ahead of myself, I just want to take a moment to say thank you to everybody that came to my event here in New York City. I did what's called the Astrology of 2020 event in Manhattan this past Tuesday, the same day as the Taurus full moon, and I got to meet some of you in person, and we talked about the astrology of 2020. And I know that some of you who aren't in Manhattan or aren't in the New York City area asked me, well, when are you going to do an event for those who are not in the area? And I will be doing a webinar on January 2nd, so stay tuned for details, and that's going to give you your download for 2020, this overview, and also what each sign can expect, both for your sun sign and your rising. I'm just looking at, hi Joanna, yes, this is like a birthday dress from a couple of years ago. I call it the disco dress. Yeah, so I just wanted to have that quick shout out to everybody who came. Was actually kind of like a really magical event. I was in a listing that my friend, who's a real estate agent here in New York City, has a penthouse that she's trying to sell. So these beautiful views of Midtown at night. So let's, my friend Marina's saying glitter bomb. Yes. So let's look at the astrology this week. So I think I was about to say that things are kind of shifting this week and what's going on. So as I record this, Mars is at the very last degree of Libra. Why is this important? So, the analogy that I consistently use with astrology is that we're just learning to tell time here. We're looking at the clock, except this clock is different planets as if they are hands on the clock. So right now, the Mars hand on the clock is at the very last degree, the last minute of Libra, a sign that it's been in since October 4th. And Mars, it's not at home in Libra. We would say in more traditional astrology speak that it's debilitated in Libra because it's in the sign that is normally ruled by Venus. So it's in a sign where Mars normally, it's a planet about taking action, being the leader. Now it has to really work with other people. It has to negotiate. It has to learn to compromise, which typically this is not Mars's forte. While it went through Libra, we had some rough astrology. This is why for some people, not everybody, but for some people, October was a little bit of a challenging month, especially in regards to relationships, because Libra is the sign of relationships. I mean, it's more than just, let's say, romantic relationships, but it's a sign that teaches us how to socialize. It teaches us how to interact and connect, to negotiate and compromise. You know, these are very important skills. We can't live in a world that's singularly Mars. You know, I'm going after, we would just kind of, rush over each other. We would be constantly in conflict. So this is why we have the balance in astrology. We have the Venus, the planet of what do you want? What do you need? Here, let me make you comfortable in this kind of balance with Mars. So just checking on the comments. Hello. So what's happening now, and I will say that back in October, Mars was, let's say, pinging off of these eclipse degrees. It was activating Saturn and Pluto. And so it was kind of creating some very heavy energy that we were all working through. So here we are. Mars is at the final degree of Libra. And it's, when a planet gets to the final degree of a sign, there's a bit of a, well, what have you learned? I think of the final degree of a sign kind of like Saturn. There's 29 degrees. 29 is a number that is very connected to the planet Saturn, because Saturn takes 29 years to go around the sun. So we're really reflecting on all the work that we've done with relationships since October 4th. We're reflecting on, let's say, the kind of the back and forth, and sometimes the confrontation and the give and the take, and where we've had to learn to compromise since early October. So, for those who have a moment today, I think it's worthwhile just to kind of take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, however long you need to really reflect on this kind of idea of relationships. And relationships, of course, come in many forms. It's not just romantic relationships. It's how you have connected and socialized since October, because at least the way that I look at astrology, we're trying to grow, we're trying to transform, we're trying to learn through what the planets are trying to teach us. And we point to a planet in the sky and we say Mars is doing this, but really in actuality, at least the way that I believe it, is that Mars is just an energy. It's just connecting. It's a word that we use that connects us to a universal energy that's present in creation. And so it helps us, and all the planets help us to understand life, both ourselves, our internal self, but also the world around us. So I'm just looking at the comments. What if you failed? Laura asked, what if you failed and the compromises? October was rough. I don't know. I don't think that when Mars gets to the end of, let's say in this case, Libra, it's all neat and tidy with a bow on top. I think maybe there has been some messiness in relationships. I think nothing's quite settled at the moment, but I think that there is this kind of, let's say, Saturnian pressure to really integrate and to learn something. Maybe it's not obvious right now. This is why it's maybe worthwhile to, spend 5, 10, 15 or more minutes thinking about it. Starting tomorrow, at least by, Eastern New York time, Mars goes into Scorpio. So Mars will like following that hand on the clock, going into Scorpio. Mars will be there until January 3rd. So Mars is right at home in Scorpio. It's moving from a sign that it's debilitated and into the sign that it has its dignity into. So what does this mean? This means that over the next 6 weeks, basically until the start of the new year, there's a part of our lives that's going to get this kind of injection of energy. Mars in Scorpio is all about power, and it kind of strengthens Scorpio. It's interesting that we had this Scorpio season where it was very much about the past and wrapping things up and letting things go, doing our work, and then here we are at the very last, less than a week left of Scorpio season, like 4 days at this point. And we get this kind of blast of Scorpio energy tomorrow. So this is why I think that this week, maybe things that have been on hold, maybe if there's been any uncertainty, that we're gonna get that forward movement once Mars starts to go into Scorpio. So everybody has Scorpio somewhere in their chart, and I did put it in the show notes. There's a link that says Mars and Scorpio sign by sign. It's a couple years old, but the information is still relevant. It's going to tell you what part of your life is getting heating up with Mars and Scorpio. And if you are an Aries or if you are a Scorpio, you're going to feel this, like almost like a return to self, a sense of power, a sense of control, a sense of forward movement. I think it's, for the most part, Scorpio and has been a little bit behind the scenes over the last 3+ weeks. In addition, we've had Mercury retrograde in Scorpio. So, that kind of added to this other element with Scorpio season, that we were going back, we were reviewing, we were having to take awareness, take consciousness of how we were communicating, the choices that we were making, the secrets that we have, the intimacy, these are all Scorpio themes, of course. And I think that with Mercury in Scorpio, there's the sense of Scorpio wanting to reveal, especially with Mercury retrograde. So pay attention to what's starting to tumble out, or the information that you're hearing, because there's a sense that maybe with Mercury turning direct on Wednesday, November 20th, that maybe something that has been kind of hidden, or something that hasn't quite, come into connection or into focus, is now starting to come together and come into focus. And Mercury is turning direct at 11 degrees of Scorpio, and it's doing so now with Mars in Scorpio. So it's going to be a little interesting. Scorpio, Mercury in Scorpio, it's very much this, like the detective, the investigator. So something, this is why I said something maybe previously hidden, is coming out. We're kind of getting to the bottom of a mystery, maybe, perhaps. Maybe there's a sense of the choices that we want to make. We have more awareness of where we need to go and where we need to head. So these are two big gear shifts happening kind of in close succession this week. It means that the story this week is changing, the story in our lives. Not the big story, but maybe like the little story that's been happening over the last, let's say, month, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. And then, a couple days after that, the sun goes into Sagittarius. So we're about to begin Sagittarius season. So on Friday, November 22nd, the sun arrives in Sagittarius, and we enter a season that's about this idea of wisdom and knowledge, and the call of adventure and the call of exploration and travel. I always say that we have to go through the ups and downs and the trials of Scorpio season in order to be able to, let's say, have the wisdom and the knowledge that Sagittarius is famous for. Sagittarius is the sign of wisdom. If you know a Sagittarius, they're quite often smarty pants. They just know things. They know everything. It's the sign of higher education. It's the sign of, let's say, somebody who's really, intelligence. I'd say Sagittarius and Aquarius are really known for their intelligence in general. So when the sun goes into Sagittarius, it's doing so with Jupiter also in Sagittarius. And, right now, Jupiter is wrapping up its stay in Sagittarius. In I think a week's time, the 2nd of December, it's going to go into Capricorn. So that said, we've had a year of Jupiter and Sagittarius, and normally Jupiter is quite happy in Sagittarius. We'd say it's it's at home, it's in the sign that it rules, but we've had let's call this square to Neptune all year round. So I think that this time with Sagittarius, with Jupiter and Sagittarius, we haven't been able to fully feel, let's say, the confidence, the positivity, this kind of sense that everything's going to all work out with Jupiter and Sagittarius. I think with the Neptune square throughout 2019, we've maybe struggled with faith. We've struggled with confidence. We've struggled with this idea that maybe it's not going to work out, or maybe it will work out. So I'm hoping that once the sun gets into Sagittarius, it kind of can get that end of the road Jupiter and Sagittarius energy, that we can at least kind of feel a sense of confidence and optimism as we start to go into December. But in the meantime, we're still wrapping up with Scorpio. So we're still in that time of really honoring life's many cycles. That's what Scorpio season does. It talks about how life has these beginnings and endings, and more beginnings and more endings, and there's a cyclical nature of life. Scorpio is the 8th sign of the zodiac. It's the 8, it's infinity. It's this idea that things keep going and keep moving for eternity. So in Scorpio, we are kind of honoring the natural life cycle of the planet, at least here in New York City. It's really getting deep into autumn. It's quite cold. It's quite dark. We get to the solstice, of course, in a month's time, and it's time to be reborn, but we're not there yet. So we're still wrapping up our Scorpio story. We're going to be in this Scorpio energy with Mars in Scorpio even into the new year. So that's still a thread of energy that will be present with us for the next 5-6 weeks. I think that when Mars is in Scorpio, we're very motivated and encouraged to embrace Scorpio, meaning psychology, meaning looking at ourselves and going into the deepest parts of ourselves, really opening up to intimacy and connection, vulnerability, and maybe even issues around sexuality as well. Mars in Scorpio, it's also a money sign. Scorpio is a money sign. So we're going to be very aware of wealth and resource as we go into the new year. Just checking on the comments. Yes, October was rough. Mary started a new job October 7th. Congratulations. Not quite related, but I know that there's been I always get the questions with Mercury retrograde, if things that happen during Mercury retrograde don't work out if you start. And it just means that when Mercury turns direct, there's a different part of the story. You maybe see things differently. Maybe you have to recommit or get a new perspective on what's going on. But please let me know how. I love hearing how you're doing and hearing how you are, let's say, working through the astrology. I will say that as we go into the weekend, we have a couple of interesting aspects on Sunday, November 24th. One of them is Mars opposite Uranus, and the other is Venus conjunct Jupiter. So the Mars opposite Uranus should be really interesting. We're going to be in Sagittarius season at that point, so it doesn't have, let's say, the more in-your-face energy if we were still in the Scorpio season. But Mars in Scorpio, opposite Uranus and Taurus, I think it is confrontational energy, but I think what it's really trying to get us to do is to get out of our comfort zones. And if Mars is something that really craves intimacy and connection with, when it's in Scorpio, how does it, how do you get out of your comfort zone and open up to somebody? How do you, because I mean, with Taurus is a sign that generally plays it safe. That's its job. It's a great job. But Uranus and Taurus for the next 6 years is about us getting out of our comfort zones, kind of leaving situations or ruts or grooves or patterns that we are really well worn and they've served their purpose, but we're not going to go anywhere if we keep going in those ruts. So Uranus is the planet of consciousness, awakenings, awareness, and there's something about, as we go into the weekend, and maybe we're feeling it in the build-up this week, that we have to see things differently. We have to have, let's say, new eyesight, new vision, new consciousness, new awareness. We can't kind of keep getting comfortable and these old patterns. So this is happening more since we're in Sagittarius season in the parts of Sagittarius's chart that has to do with healing and both this body, mind, soul level of healing, because Mars will be in Sagittarius's 12th house and Uranus is in Sagittarius's 6th. So really, especially after Friday, we might, some of these changes that we're making might have to do with health and wellness and how we're taking care of our bodies, how we're, our consciousness around our bodies. That's the thing about Taurus. It talks about the body, it talks about our, physicality of life, and something has to shift and change. It's a great opposition if you want to break habits and also break addictions. But the same day, we're also going to have Venus conjunct Jupiter in Sagittarius. It's happening at 27 Sagittarius. And Venus and Jupiter are what are called the benefics of astrology. They traditionally denote good fortune and luck. But I'm one of those astrologers that I don't like to overpromise or overdeliver Venus and Jupiter, because everybody's like, oh, great, Venus and Jupiter, it's going to be an amazing day, and then it's not. But I think that when we have these really nice Venus-Jupiter aspects, there is an opportunity. There is certainly a time when we can, because Venus and Jupiter together are quite indulgent, and dare I say over-indulgent. It's a little over the top together. They're in Sagittarius, so it's, Jupiter's at home, we're doing things kind of in this big way, this grand way. So maybe it's a day when there's like a big opportunity. Maybe it's a day when we're really kind of reveling in, the bounty and the abundance of life. In Sagittarius, we're looking towards the world. We're maybe thinking about foreign travel, maybe long distance travel. We're thinking about education. So it's a day when we're really, on one hand, might be very aware of the world around us and aware of these themes around faith and truth and wisdom and knowledge. But it's also, I think, a day where we, to kind of look at, let's say, the shadow side of Sagittarius, where we can't get too caught in what we believe, what we think to be true. Or sometimes we can get very myopic or have our blinders on about what we think, how we see things. And it's actually something that I've been thinking about the past few days. I'm like, in my own personal work and my own kind of dialogues with spirit, I'm like, okay, show me what I'm not seeing, because I think there's times in our lives where our own kind of beliefs and our own limitations can sometimes prevent us from seeing everything. So that's something for you to all think about as we go into the weekend, especially because we've got that very strong Uranus opposition. So it is all about seeing things differently, opening our eyes, and getting out of these old patterns and ruts. Just checking in on the comments. Rose is thinking about moving abroad the next couple of years. That sounds nice. I know that Libra right now, with Saturn in what's called your fourth house, Libra is having to really define and commit to where it's going to live, whether it's a new home that's abroad, or planting down roots, or even starting a family. I'm seeing that too, also with my Libra rising clients. So, you know, as always, this is a great opportunity to connect with you all one-on-one, or whether you're watching the live stream or you're watching the replay. We're just kind of recapping the astrology of this week of November 18th through 24th. And if you're joining me late, I'm all sparkly because yesterday was my birthday, and I decided to get sparkly for my birthday. I mean, like, why not? I have Jupiter in Leo. It's all about doing things big, being sparkly as well. Just checking in. Oh, somebody said they joined AA. That's really great. I always love about hearing people using the astrology to get sober and to make positive changes in their physical lives. I think that's amazing. So definitely keep it up. I think that just with the astrology right now, and this is something that I talked about in my Astrology of 2020 live event this past November 12th, that we're in a time where the astrology, like hands on the clock, the astrology is telling us that we can't keep doing things the same. I know, guys, it's some tough astrology, and if you are a Gemini or a Capricorn in particular, I'll even throw Cancer in there. You guys, I'm giving you an extra hug, because I think that those are the three signs that are really having to negotiate and navigate this difficult astrology this year. I mean, you know, a couple of teasers for next year. Saturn does change signs in March. It's going to dip into Aquarius, so it's going to get out of Capricorn, which kind of sounds awesome at the moment, because right now Saturn is getting closer and closer and closer to Pluto and Capricorn. So, you know, a lot of what's been happening this year for a lot of people is like we're trying to build new lives, and we're trying to live our lives in the midst of, let's say, our lives getting torn down. The metaphor that I've used for some people, it's as if you're living in a house that's being demolished around you, but you're still trying to live in it. And for some signs, the question is, do you keep living in this house? Do you just like completely tear it down and rebuild, or do you have to, like, you know, live in a state of construction for a little bit longer? I know that it's some pretty heavy energy. I was walking along like the main road here where I live in Brooklyn, and there was this old Victorian house that I've known this for a while, that they were going to tear it down, because at this point it's one of those things. I live in a very there's a part of Brooklyn that has a lot of big houses. It's a place called Dittman's Park, and I knew they were going to tear this down. I know the real estate is way too valuable to leave this, you know, single home standing, and I know they're just going to put an apartment building. But when I walked past it this past Tuesday, and it was completely demolished, it was the lot was empty. I was like, that's Pluto for you. That's, you know, not everything gets to remain. This idea that there's a part of our life, depending on where Capricorn is, where we're having to clear that space, and it can be a little brutal, is what I'm saying. It can be a little shocking. You know, things that we thought would be there forever aren't there anymore. But it's just a reminder that, you know, I think when we get into the new year, we have to be very conscientious, especially as Saturn starts to reach those final degrees of Capricorn. What are we building in its place? You know, something that you know, was on my mind. I might have been speaking about this earlier, but I'll kind of repeat it again, because I think it kind of goes along with what I was just speaking about a moment ago. When I was with, you know, I had this client, and you know, this idea, she had this kind of view of her own chart, and I get it. There's parts of our chart that sometimes we know a little bit about astrology that we don't like, but I really truly believe at the end of the day that the astrology is working with us not against us. That's not to say that it's not hard or difficult or exhausting or, breaks your heart and rips your gut. I'm sorry, I'm a Scorpio right now. But I think that ultimately each one of you came into this world depending on the time you were born and the chart that you have. And I think that for everybody, there's a way to kind of get to that higher potential, that higher promise. And I think that sometimes the astrology clears space, because maybe there's a higher intelligence that knows that there's just things that are in our way. We don't need them anymore. That there's something that we said we wanted to do, said that we wanted to create, and said that we want to achieve in this lifetime. And so it's especially a planet like Saturn sounds like, great, I'm going to make sure you reach your goals. So I think that that's been something that's been in the background with Saturn and Capricorn, because it is, Saturn is very, it's at home in Capricorn. I think Saturn is really holding us accountable for the things that we agreed to, the things that we would build and create and learn in this lifetime. So this is a bit, of course, of a difficult time for some people. Thank you for the belated happy birthday wishes. So somebody asked that if how does miss something out about Libra. I wasn't doing all the signs. I just made a quick comment about how Saturn is in what's called Libra's 4th house. I do have a article on my website, empoweringastrology.com, called Saturn and Capricorn, sign by sign. So that will give you a clearer idea about what is in your life. It needs to, this area that you are working on and building and transforming in particular this year. So definitely go back and read it. It's not in the show notes. I'll try to remember to put it in later, especially for those that are watching the replay on my YouTube channel. So just checking in with the comments. Again, yes, thank you for your belated birthday wishes. I really appreciate it. I really also appreciate this chance to get to connect with you all every week. Let's keep doing this. We're spending about a half an hour with each other looking at the astrology of the week ahead. Just to recap, we're going to be seeing some changes this week as 2 planets, actually 3 planets. 2 planets change sign and 1 planet changes direction. So Mercury will go direct on the 20th. And something about the story that we're living right now, it's going to start to change. So that's your week in a nutshell, November 18th through 24th, 2019. Again, my name is Katie Sweetman, and I'm Empowering Astrology. You can follow me online on Facebook, Empowering Astrology, or on Instagram, Empowering Astro. And I'm also on Twitter. And I do have a website, empoweringastrology.com. Sign up for my newsletter. I do send out a newsletter once a week, letting you kind of know in advance what's going on with the astrology. I also let you know about upcoming webinars and events. So I am doing a webinar on November 26th on Neptune. So if you are into astrology, if you are learning astrology, if you have a strong Neptune in your chart, like maybe that's another separate conversation. This webinar is for you. I have Neptune rising, so I know all about Neptune. And I'm going to be teaching this 90-minute webinar on the 26th of November, the day before Neptune goes direct in Pisces. So you can, the information is in my show notes. You can learn more, you can register, and if you cannot make the live webinar, you get the video replay, and you can still ask me questions via email. So without further ado, just checking in on the comments. Yes, hello, I see some familiar faces. Hi, Janet. Yes, you'll have to watch the rewatch. And just, I'm living the astrology too, guys. I'm trying to step out of my comfort zone as well. So may that be some inspiration, because I'm living through Saturn and Pluto. I'm living through Uranus, just like you all. I mean, for me personally, I'm just trying to like work with it in the best way. You know, that's the thing. It's like, what is the astrology asking of us right now? And how do we use this astrology for our highest potential, for us to get closer, you know, every day, get closer, closer, closer to what that, let's say, that higher promise and that higher potential of our astrology. So again, follow me online, follow me on Instagram, sign up for my newsletter, learn about my webinars. Would love to teach you some astrology. I believe, oh, and also, of course, you can book a consultation with me. Details in the show notes, also on empoweringastrology.com. I do love working with you all one-on-one. It gives me a chance to really, hopefully, open your eyes on your own astrology and kind of start to talk about what your higher promise is of your chart and what's in your way. What are you trying to learn? What are your roadblocks? So again, always a pleasure to connect with you all, and saying goodbye to the people that are watching live in the comments, and to those that are watching on the replay. Thank you very much. Until next time. So bye.